In the tourism and hospitality industry, establishment of quality is one of the prime reasons that an entity will be patronized. It should always be remembered that customers, guests as we call them, have a lot of choices. With over decades of existence in operations, the determination of quality has changed through the years. Added up to the impatience and sophistication of our guests, this concept should always be inculcated in all service providers in this industry. Learning objectives. At the end of this chapter, the students should be able to define what is quality, determine the different dimensions of quality, identify the distinction between goods, services, and service products, and gain insights on the contributions made by the pioneers of total quality management and service management. Weiermayer noted that in the tourism sector, even though the production and distribution of services involve different experiences on both parts of the tourists and the suppliers, the ultimate goal is still to achieve the highest quality possible. To determine the highest quality, one must first understand the concept of quality. For our guests in the tourism and hospitality industry, one will be using specifications, standards, and other measures to evaluate quality. This is now a piece of evidence that quality can be understood, defined, and measured. Especially for our guests, sometimes if asked on quality, they could not define it but would immediately know one when they see one. It will now be critical for quality to be seen. To illustrate, as what the quote says, "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so is quality, and more importantly, our guests define it." The International Organization for Standardization or ISO, the world body for standard formulation, also defined quality as the totality of features and characteristics of a good or service that bear on its ability to satisfy a given or implied need. In the definition, it is clear that a given or implied need should be addressed, and this is usually defined by the user, in our case, our guest, or restaurant staff, from which he or she will address the criteria for quality. A product can be defined as anything that we can offer to a market for attention, acquisition, use, or consumption that could satisfy a need or want. However, the definition of product does not only involve tangible goods such as those that are purchased in restaurants like burgers, fries, or drinks. The definition of product must be extended to include intangible objects as well, because they can also be offered to a market. A product can be defined as anything that we can offer to a market for attention, acquisition, use, or consumption that could satisfy a need or want. However, the definition of product does not only involve tangible goods such as those that are purchased in restaurants like burgers, fries, or drinks. The definition of product must be extended to include intangible objects as well, because they can also be offered to a market. Services, meanwhile, have 4 features. Lovelock connoted this as the IHIP characteristics: intangible, heterogeneous, inseparable, and perishable. Services are intangible in nature. It means that they cannot be touched, as they are not physical and can only exist in connection to other things. Services are heterogeneous due to their dependence on the workforce which does the act. In hospitality, this concept is sometimes referred to as inconsistency. Even though a standard is set, the satisfaction of each guest varies greatly, and of course, as previously stated, the guest defines the concept of high quality. That is why, commonly, the service staff adheres to the request of the guest. Inseparability, meanwhile, means that the production, act of delivery of service staff, and the consumption, guest experience, cannot be separated from each other. Service will perish in the very instant of its performance, and seldom leave any trace or value behind them for which an equal quantity of services could afterwards be procured. The following dimensions for quality should be observed and considered. Performance. It refers to a service product's primary operating characteristics. Usually in the hospitality and tourism industry, as we are catering to intangible dominant concepts, performance often means prompt service. This dimension of quality has very measurable attributes. That is why brands can usually be ranked objectively on their respective aspects. Although measurable, it is quite hard to measure overall performance rankings as they involve benefits that not every consumer needs. Features are dimensions of quality, which are usually cited as a secondary aspect of performance. They are secondary in such a way that they supplement the basic functioning of a service product. Examples would include free drinks on a plane, free Wi-Fi service in guest rooms, and a complimentary hot tea after a full-body massage. Sometimes, identifying features from the primary performance characteristics is difficult as they accentuate the actual performance indicators. But what is important to know is that features involve objective and measurable attributes that can be clearly observed, which sometimes affect their translation in quality differences. Reliability, it refers to the ability to perform the promised service product dependably and accurately. This means that being able to provide service as promised is one of the main considerations in assessing this dimension. The guest assesses quality by gauging that when he/she is promised to for his/her pizza to be delivered in 30 minutes, it should be delivered in less than or exactly 30 minutes. When the guest is promised for a mouth-watering dining experience, then the ambience, service, and food should all be complementary to deliver the said experience. Reliability can also mean dependability in handling guests' service problems, in that every challenge or difficulty that may arise be treated right the first time. Conformance, this quality dimension means that a service product's design and characteristics should meet the standard set. Euron became one of the pioneers who specialized on this area. Service products to be accomplished and performed properly need to have specifications. When new product offerings or service provisions are developed, dimensions are actually set to become standards for evaluation. These specifications are treated as the targets to be met in a specific service product. Walter A. Shewhart was an American physicist, engineer, and statistician. He is also known as the father of statistical quality control and also related to the Shewhart cycle. William Edwards Deming was an American engineer, statistician, professor, author, lecturer, and management consultant. He championed the work of Walter Shewhart, including statistical process control, operational definitions, and what Deming called the Shewhart cycle, which had evolved into Plan-Do-Study Act. Joseph M. Euron made many contributions to the field of quality management in his more than 70 active working years. His book, Quality Control Handbook, is a classic reference for quality engineers. He revolutionized the Japanese philosophy on quality management and in no small way worked to help shape Japan's economy into the industrial leader it is today. Dr. Euron was the first to incorporate the human aspect of quality management, which is referred to as total quality management. Philip B. Crosby was a businessman and author who contributed to management theory and quality management practices. He initiated the Zero Defects program at the Martin Company. As the quality control manager of the Pershing missile program, Crosby was credited with a 25% reduction in the overall rejection rate and a 30% reduction in scrap costs. Armand V Fegenbaum was an American quality control expert and businessman. He devised the concept of total quality control, which inspired total quality management. Kairu Ishikawa is notable for rejuvenating the norm in the workplace. He always believed that quality should not stop in reinventing a product alone. He was one of the few people who believed that delivering quality does not stop in purchasing the product, it goes beyond the transaction itself. Thus, he highlighted and reinvented the concept of customer service, giving us the concept of after-sale service and warranty. He was also the one who coined the Ishikawa or fishbone diagram that highlights the cause and effect of the activities and processes while in constant search of quality in operations. Janaki Taguchi was an engineer and statistician. From the 1950s onward, he developed a methodology for applying statistics to improve the quality of manufactured goods. Taguchi methods have been controversial among some conventional Western statisticians, but others have accepted many of the concepts introduced by him as valid extensions to the body of knowledge.